Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the NoBS live show. I'm here talking to you guys. We're talking about some current events. There's got some new issues to go over. We've also got some old ones we're going to bring back up. And as always, I'm joined by my good buddy Marcus. How are you doing today? Can you hear me? Sorry, hold on. I think I muted you. Go again. You froze up.
Doing great, Brooke. How are you doing?
Okay, there you are. Cool. Welcome back. Yes, I'm doing awesome. We've got some people in the chat already, which is great. I'm going to be reading your comments. I'm going to be talking about some new stuff, some old stuff, and just the general gist of things. It's our first live show in a couple weeks. September is upon us, which means a lot of things, really. First of all, we just got through Labor Day weekend. Hope you guys had a wonderful one as well. Hung out with the family, went to the pool, had some good drinks, some food, all that fun stuff. We'll talk about what you guys might have done. But I bring it up because, Labor Day is traditionally the end of the summer. Officially, I believe fall starts next week or something
Uh,
like that. But we're getting into fall season, and that's exciting for a lot of reasons. Specifically, people go back to work, back to school, shows come back on TV, sports usually come back. This year, we have the election in November. And before we get to anything, Marcus, what are your thoughts on that? Are you excited? What do you think about this upcoming fall season?
yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. Um, I tend to enjoy the food a lot more during the fall
Hmm.
and early winter season.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. There's a lot of festivities, lots of reasons to eat. Stuff comes into season. There's different things that come into ripeness. Like, autumn is known for like pumpkins, and then you lead yourself into Thanksgiving. Christmas is at the end once we get all the way down to winter. But yeah, autumn is where it happens. The one thing worth noting is I was going to ask you guys too. I mean, I just don't even really know if we're going to have. I think it's pretty certain we're not going to have like a typical fall. Like, there's a lot of shows that are getting delayed. There's a lot of sports that are in flux. The NBA just came back, but they're in like this half season, like kind of quasi playoffs. You can't go to the games. Things like that are certainly throwing curveballs out there. Another one is school. Typically you think about school coming back into session. I mean, I've been out of school for a long time, but it's still part of the system, the society. People are at school and it affects people's schedules and then work and stuff. But yeah, a lot of people are in school via the internet now. It's like streaming school. People are going with like these Zoom classes and stuff like that, which kind of like changes the whole thing, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, it certainly does put a twist on education. But from what I've been observing the last few weeks, I've noticed that some schools are going back to normal like stuff like that. Like they're going to school, they're not doing
Hmm.
e-learning. So I thought,
Sure.
okay, looks like there is a option in that case. Some people want to go to the actual school or do e-learning.
Right, right. Yeah, no, there's both options, and then it depends on your area, and you have the option even in your area. I think around here it's like either or. You could pick at your school. Some people are going, some people are staying home. It's up to the parents and the kids and stuff like that. But that's besides the point. What we're getting into now is kind of like another election move. I'm going to get to the Bob Woodward, President Trump story as this title promises, and you'll see what we're talking about real soon. But first, let's say hi to the chat. Welcome to the show, Matt. He says it's getting heated today. Certainly true. Adrian has showed up saying hello. Hello to yourself. Thanks for coming back. Bubbly says, glad to catch a live stream. Forgotten Prime says, hi all. Thank you guys for that. Any other thoughts? If you have questions, if you want to change a topic or chime in on something, feel free. We'll keep an eye on the chat. But for now, let's move to the Bob Woodward story. I believe I have some. It's getting heated today. Certainly true. Sorry, I have my Adrian has showed up saying hello. Stream to your on there. I heard myself there. There's a little echo with my setup. I fixed it. Okay, now let's get to the article. The story comes from this one right here. It says, "Play it down. Trump admits to concealing the true threat of coronavirus in new Woodward book." Now, already I could tell. I've seen the full story and some different parts of the quote. They're essentially trying to make it like Trump knew more about the virus, like he tried to hide it from us. There's this whole thing. They're trying to play it up. It's really, really bad and fake news and just totally based on like this misquote. This is like a classic thing they do to Trump, to conservatives. I've had it done to me. You know, it happens all the time. They try to make these fake quotes about you. And usually the way they go about it is they take a regular quote and kind of like cut part of it out, like either cut it off or cut the middle of the sentence out or something like that. This is what happened with the very fine people quote, the very fine people hoax, as you call it. I was going to say quote. It's actually a hoax. And that was one of those things they tried to pin on Trump for like 3 years. It came from the incident in 2017 when that far right extreme rally went wrong. And they tried to make it seem like Trump called them fine people, even though he said, no, these people are not fine. I'm talking about these other people. And he made a very clear distinction. And they tried to pin it on him like, oh, basically Trump supports criminals and killers and these 1940s Germans and extremists and stuff like that. And it was just totally debunked 3 years ago, but it still comes up in this day and age. Are you familiar with the fine people one, Marcus?
Yep, I paid very close attention to that event, and it was very, very interesting and yet unfortunate how it played out.
Yeah, yeah, it was a crazy event. And then you know what I'm talking about too, like where it's like they still use fine people. Like the fine people thing comes up like just a week ago. You know, you could see journalists trying to pretend that was a real tweet, but it's just not. I mean, it's just they take out the whole part where he says, not these people. You know, there's some fine people there. I mean, there were thousands of people there. If you have any kind of gathering, there's going to be a few good people. He's not specifically talking about the extremists, but that's besides the point. Let's get past that one. That's just another example, which I find very similar to this one. So my understanding with this news story is we'll get to the details. I mean, I don't think we're going to get the truth out of this CNN article. It's just giving us the spin. This is the biased spin, and they're trying to say, hey, play it down. Trump admits to concealing the true threat of the virus in new book. Now, this is a pretty harsh claim, and it's obviously not true for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, something I saw that just came up was people have already asked Bob Woodward, like, if this was true, why did he wait so long to reveal it? Like, if it was like such a bad thing, he saved it for his book and didn't even tell anyone until many months later. Like these quotes are from February, I think. He has some kind of tapes where Trump said something. Say what?
Yeah. It's a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's like, oh, he waited. It was like this big bombshell, but he waited 8 months and then came out with it in his book. Like, that's obviously suspect. And then on top of that, that's not what Trump really said. What he really said in the full quote was more along the lines of he didn't want to cause panic. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He wasn't trying to, like, whatever, pretend it wasn't happening. There's no hoax here. Like, there's a lot of people that say there's like hoaxers or anti-COVID hoaxers, you know, pretending it's not real or didn't happen. That's not the case at all. That's what's implied and they're trying to portray. But really, it's more like he was just trying not to panic people. He knew it was bad. Trump was taking steps at that time. I don't know if most of these people remember because the Democrats were in the middle of impeachment in January and February. But at the same time, Trump was actually making precautions. He was banning travel from that Far East nation where this came from. You know, he formed a task force. He got things going, the ball rolling. And at the same time, he said he didn't want to cause panic. He didn't want to freak people out because really, in these cases, the panic is often worse than the actual disease or the problem.
Yep, totally.
And that's what I think happened throughout this year. I think that's been proven right. Like, really, what happened was the liberals and the media wanted panic. So they're hyping this all up and they're making it all crazy and blowing this out of proportions. And yeah, that's why they're trying to rewrite this story here. And I find it pretty interesting because this is from CNN. This is the spin. And it's also from Bob Woodward. So for those who don't know, I wanted to get into his past. a little bit too. I don't think we need much more from this article. It's just showing the whole play it down thing like it's a big bombshell. And I think it's typical from Bob Woodward. Are you familiar with Woodward and Bernstein at all, Marcus?
Um, Not really. I actually was doing a little research
That's
prior
okay.
to the stream,
No, that's okay.
but
I figured it might have
yeah,
been a little bit before your time. I mean, it's a bit nerdy. It's like something you learn in history class. Basically, Woodward and Bernstein are the big journalists who exposed Watergate. They got Nixon, they caught him lying, and they got the tapes, and there was the whole thing. I mean, that's a whole story. You know, Watergate, Nixon, the president spied on his opponent for reelection. He eventually had to resign because he got caught covering it up. It was a whole mess, and it really was this big breaking story back in the day. This is like where investigative journalists like got their first star. It was Woodward and Bernstein. They turned it into a movie in Hollywood. They were played by, I believe, Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman. And you know they had big stars in this big movie, and it was all about taking down Nixon. And the reason I bring it up is because that's where Woodward really gets all his credibility. That's why he's still around making books, trying to expose Trump and other people. It's because of this thing that he pulled in the '70s, this big investigative bombshell. And I don't want to question that too much, like, but I do want to bring up the fact that I kind of tweeted this earlier today. I think you saw that tweet, Marcus. It just kind of made me question Bob Woodward. Like, if he's doing this to Trump now and he's misquoting him and trying to slander him in this way, it's like, what do you think he was doing to Nixon? Like, do you think he was politically motivated back then, too? Because remember, Nixon was a conservative law and order candidate as well. You know, he was a Republican, so it kind of makes me look back and think, hey, do you think Bob Woodward did some shady stuff to Nixon?
yeah, it's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, I'm just speculating. I don't have any proof, but it kind of is just like, yeah, I don't want to retread that ground at all. Like I'm not trying to defend Nixon. I'm sure all the evidence was there, but it just makes me think that things were politically motivated even back then. It just didn't seem like it so much because we didn't have enough technology and information to debunk these guys. But then now it's happening again to Trump, who I would say I could see the resemblance between him and Nixon. I don't want to compare him in that way too much because, you know, Nixon did resign in shame. He did get caught taking advantage, misusing his powers as the president. So again, there's no defense there, but it's just making me think about it. You know, like, isn't it interesting? It's Bob Woodward again, and now he's like pulling these quotes. So I think really, I think the best way to describe it is just Woodward has fallen from grace. Like it's not like, oh, he secretly did this to Nixon back in the day. Kind of makes me question his past work for sure when you see someone come out like this in 2020. But yeah, it's like more just like where how these titans have fallen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just something that's pretty hard to wrap your head around in
Hmm.
a situation like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like we have a few new people in the chat. Hot characters in the house. Welcome. Steiner says hi. Adrian thinks. Here's a question from Adrian saying, Brooks, do you think that if Trump wins, the left-hard zombies will cause extreme violence? I'm a little scared, I have to admit. I think it's gonna be triggering. It's definitely gonna cause some chaos. I don't know how far it will go. I mean, God hoping, willing. I hope nothing goes wrong. I hope there's no more riots or anything. Of certainly, I don't think it would surprise me either. I mean, it's definitely expected at this point. But the main thing to keep in mind is this isn't being caused by Trump or conservatives or any of us on the right side. Like they want to blame us. Like even in this case, they'll blame Trump for the riots after his victory, potentially, hopefully, but it's still their fault. Like if you riot, it's your fault. You can have excuses. Like every violent person or criminal or terrible person, you know, they would have their excuses, but truth be told, it's their fault. And I think you got to really repeat that and restate that in this day and age, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Marcus, what
it's
are your thoughts on the election and the violent? Do you think there will be some riots or something if Trump wins?
I'm pretty sure there would be, but that also depends on what happens too in the next month or two.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of time leading up to it, a lot going on, a lot of parts moving on and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. That's essentially what the Woodward story was. I think that kind of encapsulates it well. I see there's 20 people watching. That's great. Thanks for joining us. I see Hot Characters ASMR is asking for a debate. I want to debate you. We've got a debate bro in the house. Those are always fun. Not really big fan of debates though. I know there's a lot of takers out there, a lot of people making challenges, but I don't know. I don't really watch them. Like, do you ever watch debates, Marcus?
Um, I do on occasion. The last time I saw a debate was between Illinois Republican Rauner and Democrat Pritzker. That was the
Mm,
last time I saw a debate between that and yeah, Trump and Hillary. But those were
yeah.
like the two
Yeah.
times I
Those are
very
legit too.
actively
Like the
watched
only
the
ones
debate.
I legitimately think of are like, yeah, actual politicians, people on a real platform, like moderators, prepared questions and then improvised questions from the audience, like a real sort of debate. The ones I actually think of that I actually was into at one point was like a long time ago. I mean, a million years in internet years, around, I guess it was like 2010 or 11, maybe even 12 or 13, like early aughts. And there was some good debates with like the atheism movement. There was like atheism debates and like religion versus not religion, and whatever side you take on that. The point of that is like there were some really good ones with like Christopher Hitchens and what's his name, these other guys in the Four Horsemen, they used to call them. There was like Hitchens and Dawkins and Harris. Sam Harris was another big one. That was a really good era of debates. But since then, it's like not even been interesting. Like it's not professional either. It's just like a lot of like Twitch streamers debating, like a lot of these wannabes coming up with like questions and like debate me, bro. Like they think they could do it on the spot and like challenge you. And it's just kind of funny, like the way it's devolved in the current era. Debates and stuff like that are mostly used to attack people. Just look at the interview with Trump from HBO. They constantly attacked him. Good point from Adrian. Hot Characters is sending some characters. I guess that's fitting, but yeah, that's the basic thoughts on debates. Mostly pointless, not fun. Like it's not a popular genre. It's like asking someone if they want to play a game of cricket. It's like, do you want to play cricket? Like, do you want to go and play some game of cricket? And I'm just kind of like, why are you asking me? Like, I don't play cricket. I don't think I've done it like twice in like my life. It's like, but it's so funny that people still go around and asking you to play cricket. Not that I don't mind. Thanks for the offer. Whichever. Some people actually do offer in good faith. Usually it's not, but yeah, some people do, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not like angry. It's just funny. Someone says no, like a serious debate. They're coming back in. I'm not really sure what you debate about. Like that's the other thing where it's like if you just bring up, you just want to debate, and it's like you need a topic. You can't just say debate me, and it's like whatever you want to talk about, I'll debate you on anything, and that just makes me think, hey, you just want to get attention. You just want to talk to this person and get on their live stream. And that's interesting too. I mean, people definitely do that. I understand why new channels would want to find a way to get attention to themselves, but
YouTube drama.
YouTube drama, yeah, it's drama. I don't like the yelling and the kind of like unplanned. There's no winners either. Like that was the other thing I remember. Like there used to be like voting and ways to actually calculate the debates. Like, for example, I just mentioned for some reason I saw a Christopher Hitchens debate pop up on YouTube. Like, watched a couple of videos with him. Rest in peace. But I remember one of his debates. It was a good one. I think it was him and Stephen Fry versus a couple other people. And they actually polled the audience like before the debate they polled them and then after, and whoever had the best increase or decrease could win. And then it was like, okay, they won. You could see the actual win, and there's no like debate afterwards. Cause that's the other thing I don't like with like debates now, there's always like a post debate where it's like you never know who won. Like both sides say they won.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no scoring, there's no voting, there's no way to even prove the points. Like there's no scoring or point system. It's just like, yeah, there's no way to say anyone that won. So it's like you can't really say you won or lost after those kinds of debates. But that's the problem is they do. That's like exactly what they do. These people that will challenge you, no matter what happens, they'll say they won. You know?
They won in their mind, but in
Yeah.
the world, they could just see their devastating defeat.
Yeah, I know. And it's like the other thing they'll do is like they'll get people to dogpile and like they think that since they know 20 people on Twitter that will say they won over and over, that means they won. It's just like, no, dude, come on. The one
Barely
thing
made
that
a
reminds me
difference.
of though, sorry, go ahead.
Barely made a difference.
Yeah, I know, I know. And then that does remind me though, we should talk about this is a good place probably to wrap up get towards the end
Okay.
here. Any other thoughts and comments? Make sure you guys chime in. But what I was thinking is, yeah, the presidential debates. What do you think about the presidential debates, Marcus? I know they're scheduled and they just got some of the moderators. Do you still think there's a chance Biden will back out?
Well, it depends because key Democrats are making sure that he doesn't get on that stage. But do I think he wants to actually run and do the debates? Well, that's up to Uncle Joe, whatever he's doing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you know, it's a toss up. I think as far as now, it seems like it's on track. I wouldn't be surprised if he backed out. I think they were already kind of testing the waters for a back out because the way they had there was recently Nancy Pelosi saying that he shouldn't debate. She pretended she didn't want Biden to know that was her opinion, but we know she's putting that out there as like a feeler and they want to see if they could get away with it. Like priming is what they call it, priming the audience. And I think that is possible, but at this point, I think they'll happen, hopefully. And I think that's going to be very bad for Biden, like because Trump just performs well. That's where he got a lot of his best moments against Hillary in the last election. I think his debate performances took him to the next level.
Oh, yeah.
And now we got our debate me bro saying they want to debate BLM or LGBT. I'm not sure what that even means. Like that's not really like a debate? Like, I don't know. What do you mean about BLM? Like, what's the question? Like, what is
Are
the.
you like are you trying to be pro BLM, pro LGBT, and you're trying to make us look the opposite way? Like, nah, we're
Yeah,
we're
that's the
not like
thing. That's not true. It's like, I'm not against any of those people. I mean, I'm certainly against, you could say BLM and what they've become. Like, I'm against the violence and the riots and the deaths and them hurting people and, all the bad things they do. I'm certainly against them. If you want to debate for that, I don't know what's wrong with you, but yeah, if you're for that, that could be an interesting discussion. I'm not promising any debate or anything. I mean, I'm just kind of entertaining this idea. Like, how do you debate LGBT? Like, what does that even mean? Like, are you for it? I'm against it. Like, I'm not against it. Like, I've always said I'm for all alphabet people, any kind of person. I don't hate anyone. I have nothing against them. So I don't even know what you would debate there. The BLM one certainly has some more interest to it. I mean, BLM is violent and they're like a cultural Marxist group trying to destroy America. So I would say that is something I could go against. But I'm not like the thing is the problem, and this comes with that name. It's like when you say Black Lives Matter, and then it's like, oh, you want to put me against them. It sounds like I'm against black people. Like it's not like that, but that's what they're trying to make it sound like.
yeah.
And it's just like that's just implying that this group is like noble and all black when really like I've seen all these people at the protests and they're like white educated liberals getting arrested saying they're trying to help black people and like really they're just tearing down stores. It's a strange way to put it for sure, but it puts the against in a precarious situation because it's like you're against, like, they call themselves Black Lives Matter and you say you're against that, it's like, oh, so you don't like black people? It's like, no.
No, it's not. It's not as pun intended. It's not as black and white in that as that. It's I mean, it requires a little explanation and it'll make sense at the end, but do they want to accept that? No, of course not.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then shout out to Nix in the chat waving. What's up? Adrian says the problem is the haters on Twitter will use those clips of old videos every time and twist your words and they'll attack you. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
basically the truth. And you see that all the time on Twitter. Not just me either, like any kind of YouTuber or political person can have this happen with videos and clips. That's why I compare it to Trump. Like, I know I don't compare it to Trump. I'm not like an actual politician or anything like that. I'm just making videos. But the left does attack people on the right in similar ways. So that's why I mentioned at the beginning of this, we were talking about the Find People hoax. And I've had pretty much the same thing happen. Like the Find People hoax happens to YouTubers too and other people on Twitter. Like, Marcus, you might have even seen it just with your chats or discussions. They might mislabel your words or something. Try to screenshot a tweet and make it look worse. They cut out clips from a video. They use your old quotes from like a deleted stream that has no source, and it's just like, how do you know they're not just making this up? And then they look at you and you're like, why would anyone make that up? It's like, dude, people make stuff up online all the time.
Yeah, the funny thing about that, I remembered when those kids came on and they started making videos, and then I'm like looking through their videos, seeing what they're doing, and I'm like, maybe not. But I've been trying to look for my stuff on there too, but I haven't seen anyone
Hmm.
post anything about me
Which kids are you
about
talking
that.
about though?
The socialist kids.
Oh yeah, that stream. That stream. Yeah. That was another
Yeah, that was
example of it for sure. Yeah, those clips
that
will
that
still
that
pop
was
up.
a disaster.
Yeah, I know. I know. It was like ever since then, everyone of these little kids, like these like high school kids that I just at one point I did a stream with them for fun, and they've talked about it for like 2 years since then, and they pretend like I don't know what socialism is. And I was like, there's one point I was goofing on them and I was just like pretending, oh, I said socialism was this, and I was saying as a joke, and they still use that quote as if I was serious and like, oh, he doesn't know what this means. It's like crazy.
Yeah, take
And
a joke, kid.
yeah, I know. It's like you could tell, like, I don't know how much of the stream you saw, Marcus, but you could tell the parts where I was joking, right?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing, and I actually really wanted to jump in to support you, but
Hmm.
I never got the invite to join in and rebut the discussions they've been throwing at you.
Yeah, yeah. But regardless, like there was one point, you remember the part where it's like they kept asking me to define words, and I'm just like, dude, I'm not a dictionary. Like, this isn't like a science class. Like, I'm just here to stream. We were talking about something else, and then all of a sudden they start asking me to define words. And that's when I started goofing on them. And it was pretty obvious goof. If you see the stream, I'm just like saying socialists are people that are really social. And, I said, and then I was like, then I started defining other things that I knew weren't socialist. Like I was like, oh, well, socialist is where you have a leader and they're in charge of the country, and then when they die, their son takes over. And it's like, no, obviously that's a monarchy, but I defined it in this way because I was goofing on them. I did all these goofs, and I thought it was pretty funny. But they actually thought it was really funny too. Like they were all laughing, everyone was laughing. But then all of a sudden, like after the stream, they try to act like I was serious, and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't know what socialism is." And like a bunch of people took that meme seriously. Like I saw other channels make videos about it. Like they quote those links. Like it's kind of hilarious to me how far they'll take it. It's like they want to believe it's true. Like they like when they don't like someone like me, they'll just like accept all these jokes as if they're true.
Yeah, it's nuts how far these people will go.
Yeah. It's really crazy, and then all these people, like, everyone that does this crap on me, they end up disappearing from the internet, like, those kids are totally gone, like, all these people, like, 2017, there was, like, a whole group of these characters making videos about me at this point and this point. Their channels are all dead. Like, everyone has just they're always just coming in for, like, 1 or 2 videos, and then they disappear, it's like that's fine too. I get that people come and go from the internet, but I just think I like to bring it up because it's like everyone that comes against me ends up being like just these part-time hacks that end up walking away because, they weren't really that into it.
Hmm. And was it right around 2017 or earlier than that? You were uh, you were recognized by a bigger YouTuber. I think you were. I don't know if it was called out or if he just gave you a shout out on his channel and
Yeah, I
was
think I
just
know
very,
what you
very
mean. I think
ballsy
it was
about it. Eric, you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, it was
the
comment
comment
etiquette.
etiquette
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, and I thought that was funny, dude. Like, I ended up getting the top comment on his video because I was like, I just responded like, it's this. I said some joke. I forget what I said, but I basically said it's great to be goofed on by one of the best. Like, I actually watched his channel. He goofed on me. He made some cracks. He said I looked like, I have this logo that's a bull head that makes me bullheaded, which is a joke that I had known from the beginning, but he pointed it out. It was a good laugh, and I was like, that's cool. It's funny. And that's the kind of stuff that, he's actually one of the few channels that's still around too. But, he doesn't really, he's not that political. He just mentioned my video because he did a thing on mansplaining, and I had a video on mansplaining. So that was fun. And yeah, it was just like that kind of thing. Like, he let it go too. Like, I never heard about him again. He wasn't like dwelling on it like a lot of these other people that'll just keep posting and following you around and like giving you these fake quotes, acting like you don't know something. It's like so weird. And someone else mentioned another channel that did that too. Like, yeah, the ones that come after me, they get real obsessive and they'll make multiple videos in a row, usually like really long videos, like 30-minute videos. Sometimes they'll stream about me for like an hour. And yeah, it's just funny because I don't know, I don't ever do that. Like, do you ever think of a time I've done that? Like, my channel pretty well, Marcus, and the people watching. I mean, I made multiple videos on other channels, but it was never like that. It was just like, oh, yeah, I kept reviewing MTV Decoded because they're terrible and they're just like this big corporate funded propaganda mill. Like, of course, I'm going to make a bunch of videos about that. Of course, I'm going to keep talking about issues like the Captain Marvel story had a bunch of videos. Like, I kept going with that because, she said dumb stuff. The movie was lame. It was this big popular thing. But that's not comparable. Like the stuff we're talking about, it's like these guys are just harassing me, this like regular guy on YouTube. I'm not like corporate funded. I'm not like crazy propped up by any network. Like, I'm barely just squeaking by. I'm happy, I'm doing well, but it's like, I'm just a guy just surviving, like waiting for one day them to ban me because they ban every other conservative. But yeah, what do you think, man?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy just watching the evolution of YouTube drama, depending on
Mm-hmm.
who it is that's being getting troubled or who's being the like the aggressor in this case and stuff like that, and just watching the end result. It's
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot
Makes
to
me
do with the YouTube drama for sure. You get sucked in, and I'm glad I'm like staying away from it mostly now. Like, I had a few bouts and yeah, a few streams and some high and low marks, but mainly I'm just more concerned. I like focusing on the videos, talking to you guys, doing the streams and the news. Just doing the work.
Yeah, it makes me want to go back to 2007, back when YouTube had a purpose on the
Mm-hmm.
internet. It was entertaining the audience,
Mm-hmm.
broadcasting the just stuff like that. I
Yeah.
think about like people like Gus Johnson. You watch him occasionally.
Which one?
Gus Johnson.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That guy's funny.
Yeah, he's the closest thing to us. Like for me, like he's like the closest celebrity in the entire like Midwest here. So I'm like, out of everyone in the Los Angeles and New York area, Gus Johnson's like the closest celebrity you'll ever find out in the Midwest.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, he's funny. He's got like a pretty classic kind of YouTube channel too. Like you're talking about the olden days a little bit, and it's like, yeah, he's reflective of, back in the day, it just used to be people making their own channel, maybe have some friends on once in a while, but mostly just, videos, sometimes vlogs, sometimes skits and jokes or songs or something. It's like classic YouTube. And the last thing I'll say, because we're about to wrap it up, is yeah, I remember like what you're saying, like 2007, even if you go back to like 2010, 2014, like those are times when YouTube was its own thing. Like it really needed a place for people to have their own channels and to do their own kind of production. But what sucks now is it's moving more and more towards like corporate. It's becoming this thing where it's like, oh, now it's not about individual YouTubers, it's about networks, it's about the Jimmy Kimmel show on YouTube, or all these music videos are getting more hype, which was always kind of a thing. But it used to be nice to have like your own personal YouTube channels and stuff like that, which is still happening. It's still popular, but it's getting harder and harder each day.
Yeah, even Gus made a video all about that. He was just like, yeah, he went to a com where people would talk about videos and content, but the one thing that was very bothering him was the fact that they were just talking about numbers. They were talking about money.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, guys, entertainment. This is how
Yeah.
you get an audience.
I know, and that comes up for me too. Like I'm glad that he said that too, because I've noticed that a lot. Like I've been on here a couple years. I've talked to a lot of guys, talked to a lot of gals, other people on channels, and I always get little like turned off like that too. Like I mean, I understand you have to keep an eye on the views and the numbers, and want to know about the business side, but there are a lot of people that are just too focused on it, and it's like all you'll talk about, and then I'll have to stop them. Like I've literally done the same thing like you're saying. Sounds like a similar story from Gus, where it's just like for me, I'll be talking to people and they're going over the numbers, and I'm just like, look, I'm a creative guy. Like I'm more interested in talking about the videos and a style, and maybe coming up with a good joke for the video, or how you're going to edit it maybe is interesting. I like to know about like specifics, like some behind the scenes stuff is what really is interesting to me. It's the content that's king. It's the what you talk about, how you talk about it, who you bring on your show, what you spotlight, the topics and the thumbnails and stuff like that, as opposed to like, yeah, focusing on how much money am I making? Is this a trending topic enough? That's stuff that you have to keep in mind too, but I'd rather just focus on the good content. So,
Yep.
with that
And that's what
said,
I've been doing.
what's that?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing too.
Good.
Just filming trains, being able to entertain my audience just like that.
Good, good. Yeah, and everyone watching, make sure you check out Marcus's channel. He's got a channel, Improsser. Is this still the name, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Improsser. He does train videos, rail fanning as they call it. So make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you also check out our new videos on this channel. We also have the main channel, of course, NoBS. The main channel just came out with our video, our second video of the day about 15 minutes ago. So go check that out afterwards. We're going to wrap things up now. I appreciate everyone tuning in. You guys are the best. Thank you, Adrian, for your kind words. Thank you, Nix, and all the other people who chimed in. Hot characters, all the other guys. Let's see who else was on here. Matt, Improsser, that's you, buddy. Adrian. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming on. Thank you, Marcus, for joining me as always.
Always a pleasure, Brooks.
Yeah, man. Good to see you. We'll do this more often. We'll talk again soon. Everybody have a great day.
Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.